Hi, it's Wendy from Divine Spark Yoga. Today's exercise is a wonderful counter stretch to the activities that many of us are engaged in from day to day. This kind of forward-facing computering, driving, and for those of us moms who are dealing with young babies where we're holding them, nursing, and such, it can really do a number on our neck and shoulders. So this stretch today is to counter that and open up the chest, the pectoral muscles, the arms, the shoulders, so that it can start to release the tension that starts to build up at the back of the neck and the shoulder and mid-back area. For those of you who have blocks or bricks at home, we're going to utilize those today. So there's a couple different ways we can set up for this, and I'm going to show you so that you can pick what's best for you. You have the option of the bottom block, which is going to go across your scapula, that block be either the middle height or the lowest height. I'm going to start with the middle height to show you the demonstration, but for those of you who are extremely tight through this area, if that height just feels like it's way too intense, then you're going to start with the lower height. Now again, this is going across the scapula or shoulder blades. That's the one that's going to be on the bottom. The one that's going to rest on top is for your head. So if you have the first block on that middle height, then usually for most people, the second block would be at the tallest height. We basically want to maintain a nice even arc through the upper mid-back to the neck. So this is option one. You're going to seat yourself and start to guide yourself back where that bottom block goes right at the tip of the shoulder blades. And the other block is for your head. And then you start to extend your arms out any amount. Now, as you start to reach your arms kind of up and out to a T shape, you may notice that your arms are kind of just hanging if you're super tight, kind of like mine are right now. They're starting to drop a little. But if this is just too much, then just start a little conservatively here so that you can just start to feel into the first piece of sensation. Now, in terms of the legs, it's really what feels best for you. To straighten out the legs may feel nice and expansive. However, if you have a tight low back or low back issues, this may just feel too compressive on the low back. So in that case, you would start to bend your knees, placing the soles of the feet on the floor. And certainly the feet can just rest at hip width, or what might feel nice is to take your feet wider than your hips and let your knees tip in and rest upon one another. This particular position of the feet and legs really gives the low back and the sacrum an opportunity to widen and create space. And so you take several breaths here. You may notice after several rounds of breath and really starting to give the weight of your body over to the blocks that your arms start to release down. And maybe then at that point you can start to take the arms a little further out. And you can play around with how far out they start to go. When you're ready to come out of it, I suggest using your arms for support, starting to pick up your hips and kind of scooch them to one side, and then starting to roll, but allowing your arms to catch you, and then pressing yourself up. So that is option one. Option two is a little bit more intense, and it's basically the same except for this bottom block. Instead of the bottom block being long ways across your scapula, it would go the other way to go between your scapula. So the block would still be on its middle height, but this more narrow line in between the scapula. So just keep in mind that in this case, we have to be mindful that the block itself is set pretty high in the mid-back area, so that the bottom edge of this block does not hit you too far down into the mid or low back. That's not the area we're trying to extend here. So you'll start to set yourself up in the same way. And make sure that the block is starting to be right between the scapula. So set just right between the scapula. And then from there, we start to explore the same thing in terms of the arms, the legs, whatever feels good for you. Now, as you're breathing here consciously, one thing you want to be aware of, since this is a heart opener, it's kind of taking our spine into what's called extension or a back bend, that the front ribs are going to have a tendency to want to just flare out. And so it's not that we want to really push them down per se, but we do want, as we breathe consciously, to allow on every exhale the front ribs to absorb in, to kind of soften down, so that they're not just fully flared out, which will compress the mid and low back a little bit too much. And so you would be here as long as feels good for you. Certainly if you've never done this before, it can feel quite intense. So just listen to your body. You're going to carefully come out of it by scooching the hips to one side, taking the bottom arm for support, starting to turn, keep your head soft, let the other hand catch the floor, and start to press yourself up. As always, I hope that feels amazing in your body. Enjoy the practice.